How do you create a successful business and a fulfilling life? In 2020, after leaving the corporate world once and for all, I founded my digital agency that replaced a six-figure income within just the first few months. Since then, I've coached thousands of entrepreneurs across the globe to do the same. Now I'm on a mission to teach others how an exceptional life is not only possible, but very achievable through entrepreneurship. Join me in this podcast as I interview industry experts to learn the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts of what it takes to become a great business owner, and share some of the lessons I've learned along the way as well. Thank you for joining me, and let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Marketing Mastermind. This week is a little bit special because we're doing something combined where, we've had a lot of mini mastermind episodes recently. And we're doing something similar to that, but also bringing in a friend of mine and also a member of the TRC team, Jessica Raab. Thank you for joining me, Jess.
Of course. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. And the reason that I've brought Jessica onto this episode today is because we're talking about something that both of us are very passionate about, but also that she is an expert in, specifically for our team, for TRC. And that is the process of helping our clients when they do not have the same type of lead flow coming into their business. And as you can probably tell by the title of today's episode, is your business dying? This is something that we see with a lot of clients that come to work with TRC. So we figured, let's just, address it head on today and talk about some of the ways to not only mitigate that, but also, turn it into a positive. So you ready to dive in?
Let's go. I'm excited about it because I think a lot of, there's a lot of people that we talk to that this specific subject will help them grow their business tremendously. So I think it's a huge, I'm excited to talk about it. So
yeah, same. So I want to start first with saying, with the title, is your business slowly dying? What does that actually mean? And I think a really good example of this is something that, we all were impacted by on some level, but specifically in the business world, the pandemic, it turned a lot of businesses upside down. And it was an interesting time as well, because I would say that, and I'm just throwing a stab in the dark at a statistic here, so tell me if I'm close, Jess, but I would say that probably close to 70 or 80% of the businesses that we speak with, or that we even talk to, say that they get most of their business from referrals.
Yeah, that's typically exactly who we talk to, for sure. Yeah, I agree 1,000%. So
right, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Referrals are great.
Right. Referrals are amazing. Everybody wants referrals, of course. Right.
It's an amazing transfer of trust. They seem, they tend to be more sticky or loyal clients because of that transfer of trust and, everything that comes with it. But the downside is that you cannot forecast the amount of referrals that you're going to be getting next week or next month or this time next year. And coming back to, the example of bringing up the pandemic, I feel that was a really difficult part for a lot of the businesses that use that, as a what's the word that I'm looking for? Like a reliability point, maybe, of traffic in their business.
Like a crutch, I guess, for their business.
Yeah, exactly. That, especially during that time where we were not networking, we were not, meeting in person any longer, referrals died down a lot too, I think, for just about every business. So what can we do about it? What can we do about it to create a more forecastable, a more reliable lead method, right? Of bringing more traffic into your business. I guess before we go into maybe that, that strategy or the thoughts around that, anything else you'd add to that list of businesses that we see that just are relying on referrals and what that looks like?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think my 2 cents on that too is just referrals are amazing, and that's one avenue to
Mhm.
grow your business. But if it's something that's not predictable, then it makes it very difficult as a business owner to be able to plan for the future or and plan your growth goals. So
Mhm.
being able to have another type of lead source that's actually predictable is game changer for any business. So that way you can actually set goals, know the numbers that you need to hit to actually hit those goals. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, just having, I mean, yeah, business ownership in general is uh there's a lot of unknowns.
right,
I think
right.
that's fair to say, but yeah, when it comes to lead generation, and especially if you're at a point in your business that you're like, okay, we have these audacious goals for growing over the next 6 months or a year or 5 years even, you're going to need something that you can calculate or forecast that growth based off of, that is more reliable than just, I hope Jimmy sends us another referral.
Right, exactly, exactly. And then also as a business owner, that's stressful having to put all your reliance on something that you don't know is consistent and when you're going to see that next referral come in. So
Mhm.
as a business owner, having to pay salaries and stuff like that's when it gets a little bit you want to have something in place, some type of strategy in place. That way you can have predictable results in your business if you really want to scale and grow, for sure.
Yeah, very true. All right, so let's talk about the ways to combat this, right? Uh,
Okay.
and I will say too, just for context on this, I really like the phrase that we hear of, like, okay, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You've got to diversify your investments, right?
Mm-hmm.
That type of idea. And I think it's really the same type of thing. I'm going to use the example of, I don't know how many people this really affected or how many really even remember it, but being in the marketing world pretty heavily, I definitely saw the impact of it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but do you remember, man, it was probably 6 months ago, there was one day that Facebook shut down. No
Yes, yes,
music.
yes,
You remember that?
yes. Yep,
And
yep.
what was so crazy and funny and also not funny is
Yeah.
there were so many people in in the world of marketing that were scrambling, absolutely
Mm-hmm.
scrambling, because they relied only on their marketing channel in Facebook, of Facebook ads or their
Mm-hmm.
Facebook group that had all of their clients and all of their leads in it, right? And so while I'm not saying that, Facebook isn't reliable, I'm not saying that. What I am saying
Right.
is diversify, right? So that if one of your lead channels fails or has a problem or something
Exactly.
happens, that your business doesn't die.
Exactly. And so that's one thing like that I like about this topic too is like if you know your numbers too and you have multiple avenues to be able to create, potential clients coming in, that's where you win. Because if only sometimes some things don't work and sometimes they do work and then they stop working. So if you only have one avenue, you're really going to set yourself up for some hard times in the future for sure with your business if you don't have more than one avenue to create clients and more
Right.
than one strategy.
Right. Yeah, perfectly said. Okay, so I think it's important to maybe explain this a little bit. And if you have read we've got an ebook that was pretty popular that we released, what was it, a month ago or so?
Yeah.
But we explained the different types of sales cycles that we typically categorize clients into before creating marketing strategies that will help them be most effective, right? So if you've
Yep.
read the ebook, this will be familiar to you. If not, you can download it. We'll put the link in the show notes. But I'm going to explain that a little bit first before we talk about some of the tactics for it, because I think this is important.
Agreed.
So just to kind of explain here, majority of businesses that come to us, or, that we've served, and we've worked with businesses of every type of size all across the world, right? But majority of businesses are going to fall into one of three categories when it comes to their sales cycle. And what I mean by your sales cycle is from the point that a client first hears about you until they become a paying client. Okay, so whatever happens between that period, that's your sales cycle. All right, so here are the three different types that we categorize them into. The first is what we call a transactional sales cycle. And this is going to be more common in maybe the retail or even e-commerce world, right? Think of it as like a transactional sell. Like you click on an ad or you click on a link or you go to a website with the intention of making a quick purchase, boom, and that happens with their clients over and over again in most cases, right? It's very transactional. It happens in a matter of sometimes even minutes. I've made some pretty quick Amazon purchases, right?
Yes. Yep. Same here.
The second type of sales cycle is what we call a value-based sales cycle. And this is one where it's going to take a little bit longer of a time frame with the client. It's going to take anywhere from 1 day to 2 weeks, right, to close that sell. And the deals or the value of the deal at this level are generally between the $500 to about $5,000 range. Okay, so that's usually what we see: offers, products, programs, things like that fall in that price range. Generally require a little bit of educational process, but more so proving the value that you're able to deliver to that client that justifies the cost or the investment for them, right? And then have like 1, 2, maybe 3 meetings, and then they close. Okay, so that's a value-based sales cycle. And then the third type is what we call an educational sales cycle. And these are much longer. They can be anywhere from 1 month to 12 months, or sometimes I've even seen 3-5 years on the extreme side, right? These are going to be products, services that are much higher. I would say anywhere from, on the very low end, 10, 20,000 and to 1 million even, right? And these types of sales cycles generally are a new idea, a new way of thinking, or some type of mindset shift or educational shift that must happen in the client before they have enough trust and confidence built in this solution to make a move, right? So some examples of this, Jess, one that you're very familiar with, real estate, right?
Yeah.
Talking about someone who's like on one end purchasing their first home versus someone who is, investing into their next property. I mean, both of those would likely fall into this scenario, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I mean, same goes to if you're looking at, so we work with a lot of clients in the wealth management space or alternative investment space. And this is a very common sales cycle in that space because, more often than not, they are coming up, to the challenge of how do we educate our ideal client in a way that is the most efficient, most effective, helps them understand and build that confidence the quickest, and, gets them to a place where they're ready to make a decision on this. And again, that can take, a couple of weeks, that can take a couple of months to get to that, right? Okay. So anything that I missed on those three?
No, that's perfect. And I think knowing your sales cycle as a business owner and how to create content around it is important too. So I'm excited to dive in on exactly how we can help them as far as have your business not dying based off of your sales cycle and what educational pieces you could, put in and implement.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So I want to spend a little bit more time on the educational sales cycle for this one because I feel that the other two sales cycles can be achieved, like, you know, an effective method of marketing can be achieved with a condensed version of, you know, the more complex marketing needed at that level.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say that as clear as possible, but like as I'm saying it, I'm like, does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. I think it all makes sense to everybody else as well. So.
Okay, cool. All right. So let's talk about that. First,
Okay.
let's say that, you know, at the very top, and I'm going to explain this. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can see my hand movements. If not, just close your eyes and try to imagine. But I'm making, you know, the shape of a funnel here. And any type of traffic coming into your business is going through this funnel, right? The idea is at the top of the funnel, we're casting a large net to collect as many of the ideal audience as we possibly can. And that through nurturing or through the educational process or the process of your sales cycle, that they are self-qualifying themselves, you know, weeding out the tire kickers. And that as time goes on down the funnel, as it gets narrower and narrower, you are left with individuals who are excited about the opportunity, the solution, the product that you are offering. They have built brand recognition, trust with you, with the company, and they're ready to make a move, right? That's the idea. That's the ideal scenario, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So for the educational sales cycle, this is what we're looking at. At that top of funnel area, the widest part of the funnel, we want to provide opportunities for people to come into the ecosystem. Okay. I'm going to take a quick tangent on this. This is something really unique that I was sitting in a seminar. It's actually been over a year ago now, but it was awesome. It was actually about LinkedIn. But the guy that was teaching it, he said something that I loved. He asked the audience, as a marketer, what is your job?
Ooh,
I know
okay.
it's everyone pretty much, right? Well, I don't know, like to generate leads or to generate, you know, results.
Yeah.
He goes, the job of a marketer, which by the way, everyone listening to this, you are a marketer. If you're a business owner, a salesperson, if you're in IT, if you do the customer support, I don't care what your title is, you are a marketer.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Yeah. The purpose of a marketer, your job is to create opportunities to have that client do business with you. Whether that is providing them with, you know, opportunities to learn, opportunities to build trust, opportunities to meet with you, right? Whatever that, that's the job, to create opportunities. Okay, so coming back to the topic. I just thought it was like, I was like, oh yeah, that actually is really cool.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. But I digress. Going back to, you know, that top of funnel, that wide part, the purpose of that is that, again, we want to create these opportunities, right? And
Absolutely.
that's where these lead channels are going to flow in from. So one of your lead channels at the top of funnel is going to be referrals, right? That's one. But we want to create other opportunities, and those can be done through paid advertising, through organic content, social media posting, right? I mean, I'm not a super big fan, but I know TikTok has taken off.
Yes.
But social media is a great place to connect with individuals, especially targeted audiences.
Yes.
Did I say paid advertising already?
Yeah, you said paid advertising.
Paid advertising. Webinars, educational content, podcasts, YouTube channels, which many of you are probably watching right now on YouTube, right? Online courses. I mean, there are so many options of ways that you can create these opportunities. Okay. And I think to simplify it, you can put it into maybe a couple of different buckets. And I think the most simplistic buckets here are either organic or paid, right? Organic is going to be the things that you're doing on a regular basis that don't necessarily cost ad dollars, but can still, build credibility, authority, and attract the right type of person. And then on the paid side, it's the opportunity, of course, to run paid advertising to get the right types of clients. Okay, so we have that checked off. Now comes the fun part of the strategy. And this is what works absolute best, guys. I mean, we've worked with, like I said, so many different types of clients, businesses have very unique types of offerings or very unique ways of, working with clients even. And that's what works. Okay. The trick is that for all of these different lead channels, they need to end up over time to the same place. Okay. So, man, I'm such a visual person so badly. I just want to like draw a picture, but I'll do my best to explain it here. What I mean by they need to lead to the same place is we'll use the example of like a strategy session, right? If that's your main entry point for a client to do business with you, is that first they need to have, that discovery call or that strategy session with you. Then, okay, that's where every single one of your lead channels needs to eventually lead to. Right?
Right.
So that in mind, you can now be creative with filling in what happens between that point and that, top of funnel. So I'll give examples with this. And the reason that I, said at the beginning of this is that every sales cycle can really be some version or some condensed version of this is because the time frame between those 2 points is really, the amount of nurturing or the amount of follow-up and content that you're providing them, of opportunities you're providing them is what changes, right?
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
Okay. So I feel that just temperature check really quick. Anything that you would add on this, Jess, at this point?
No, I think we're good. I think you're hitting every part that we need to hit. So
there is mud. Okay. All right. Cool. So I'm going to share what I feel is and what we've seen is the most productive or effective method for nurturing these long-term sell cycles.
Yeah.
And again, if you're in the value-based, just condense it a bit, right, to your sell cycle time. So this is what it is. You've got your lead channel, whether that is organic or paid. You're directing them to some type of value that they can learn something. And the trick with this is that you want the thing that you're driving them to, you want it to answer one of the most common questions or most common objections that you're getting from your audience. So should we use an example, Jess, like an industry example?
Yeah, I'd love to use an example. So like, because I talk to, business owners kind of on a daily basis, especially like, so for example, in like the wealth building space, there's a few people that I've talked to that like, they're like, so for example, they're like trying to gather funds for real estate investments and stuff. And the biggest thing that I get from them is they're like, well, I just don't think paid advertising is going to work for me. And if I do, I've been told I have to spend like an absorbent amount of money on the ads in order for them to be successful. That's one objection that we have gotten from, that specific niche.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, let's use that. Let's use a company that's running a project. They're trying to collect a fund, amount for their next project. We'll use that as an example. Okay. And I'll say too that I feel like this is one of the most common mistakes that businesses make when they say, "Oh, Facebook ads don't work," or social posting doesn't work, or whatever doesn't work. Well, yeah, it's because you're not doing it the right way.
Right? Yeah, or very strategically, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. The right way. And this is what we commonly see that does not work. It does not work to run a paid ad directly to an appointment link. That's not going to work. You're skipping all of the steps in between there, right?
Exactly. I think that's so important too. And like what I think a lot of people get wrong is, especially now that social media has been in front of us for so many years now, you can't just throw, even if your offer is like amazing, like it catches people's attention, you cannot just throw one ad, one offer. I mean, yeah, you can, but are the results you're gonna get gonna be there? Probably not. And I mean, if you do get results, like imagine what the results would be if you're strategic about it and actually do it correctly, which you can jump in more into that one, how to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you added that. Yeah, that's very true. Okay, so here is the more strategic way to do it, right? Or the right way to do it. And the way to do it is by adding value, adding not just value, but adding a win for the lead or for the client, right? Providing a solution, providing value to them before they even pay or before they even are, like offering up their full undivided attention on a 1 hour meeting with you, right?
Right.
And that doesn't, and I think, saying that oftentimes people say, well, I'm not going to, give away the secret sauce before they're paying. It's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. All we're doing here is providing some type of content that's going to help them feel that they're making a step forward. And that's the idea, is helping them move a step forward in the process, in that process from the top of funnel moving down, right? So let's say, like you said, Jess, a lot of clients that we work with are in the multifamily real estate space, right? Looking and building funds for that. So a great midpoint value item, right? Because this is a process, this is an investment that their ideal client, who is a high income earner or potentially an accredited investor, is maybe familiar with or maybe not familiar with. But the question in their mind of why would I invest with, this company, or why would I invest in this type of project, can be answered by an ebook or a masterclass or, even a short online course. And it doesn't have to be, here's our secret sauce, right? It can be something as simple as, here is the high level framework of how we helped Joe get a 5% return on his investment last year with us, right? Or I love using the example. We've got a client of ours who he went from being a sales professional in the medical space to building a 6-figure passive income for his family through real estate investing. And he now teaches people how to do that, right? And so his masterclass, that first win, right? People that are first coming into his ecosystem, their question is, well, would this actually work for me? This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I've gone through. Am I at a place that this would make sense? Do I have to be a genius to figure this out? How difficult is it going to be? Do I have to have X amount of money, right? Like these types of questions. And so his masterclass, that value add is, here is the breakdown. Here's the blueprint of how I created a 6-figure income passively, right? Through real estate investing family.
Right.
And then from that point, okay, so you're helping, and there's the idea, guys, is like at that point, you're helping the client to realize a win, to have an aha moment, to some type of an, emotional connection or emotional excitement, some type of impact that they're feeling there that's helping them to build trust, to move a step closer in that process. Here comes the part that's very, very, very important, right? It's so important that from that step where they experience that high, that win, that you're following it up with consistent outreach, communication, whether that is through email, through text messaging through phone call, right? Having your team start to reach out and just say, hey, what was your biggest takeaway from that? Right? You're building that relationship and that trust. And then based on your sales cycle and the time frame of that, look at, okay, do they have the information they need to make an educated decision on investing or moving forward in this sell? Do? Awesome. The next step could be, hey, let's get on a call together if this makes sense for you, and we can, talk about what it looks like for you, your unique situation. If not, if there's still a level of education that needs to happen there, which your clients, the sales cycle, right? If that's the case, guess what the next step would be? Hey, we saw that you attended the masterclass. Would love to hear your feedback on it. We have an upcoming, live event, virtual, that's happening that I'd love to offer you a free ticket to. Right? Or here's a podcast episode that we recently recorded.
Yes, exactly.
Most common questions, right? Now, here's the thing with this too, because I don't want anyone listening, I don't want you to think like, okay, so I can't let them schedule an appointment until they get to the bottom of the checklist. No, please don't do that. Make it very easy for someone to schedule an appointment with you. Because what's the thing that they say, like every squirrel, what is it? Even
I'm gonna need a little more info. Every squirrel, what?
Like something about how every squirrel will eventually find a nut. I don't remember.
Okay, I like it.
Exactly. But it's basically the idea that like, every once in a while you're going to have someone that comes in that like they're ready to go right from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
A bad analogy. But majority of your audience, right, is going to maybe need a little bit more time. But that, that few percentage that's ready to go, right, ready to move forward, you don't want to make it difficult for them to meet with you or to do business with you. So obviously have that at the forefront, but you want to continue this nurturing process to the extent of your sales cycle.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that sales cycle too, because this helps you really then create, and so educational piece is one part of it, and then follow-up's another part of it too, and like how to like create specific strategies towards that. And some of those strategies that you want to think about is, what is my sales cycle? Because like you don't want to be bombarding people with information that's not going to be helpful for them. You're just going to get put on the spam list. Like, and you don't want that, because it can be a powerful tool if you use it correctly, like email follow-up and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Awesome. Okay. So I'm trying to think, for those listening, what your next natural question might be. And in my mind, it would probably be like, okay, well, what types of content or what types of lead magnets could we create that would help our ideal client move a step forward in the sales process? I wasn't even thinking about this when we started recording, but it just dawned on me that in that ebook that we talked about, which we'll put in the show notes here, it is specifically around the lead channel of paid advertising. But it does also talk about, this full concept, this full method. And in that ebook, there is a page that has a list of ideas for lead magnets, for the types of content that you can create for your audience. So anything else that we need to add on this, Jess?
I don't think so. I just think understanding like your sales cycle and then creating like that educational piece. And I guess my suggestion for the educational piece and like what you should write about is really focusing on, okay, who is your specific client you're wanting to work with, and what are the common questions that they ask you all the time. And that's like a really great place to start. And then from there you can kind of, judge, put content out there, see what's actually working the best, and use that piece of content that works the best, that is the best, and be able to get the best results with that. So
oh yeah, that's a really, really good suggestion. Right? If you're asking like, well, what would we even create?
Right, exactly. Because I feel like that might be their next question. They're like, okay, I get it. Cool. Yeah, I can see how an educational piece would be perfect. Okay, but what? So that's what my suggestion would be to business owners would be, what are the common like objections, questions that your specific client has? And answering those for them and giving them those answers is going to help them move them along, and then also create that trust, and also that like, okay, hey, these people actually know what they're doing and they can give me the results.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Well, let's end it there, because I think
make sure your business is not slowly dying. Make sure you don't just rely on referrals. Make sure you have an educational piece. This is another avenue that you can actually implement into your business to make sure it's not dying. Because I guess, okay, I'll throw an analogy. Yeah. If you're not growing, you're dying. So even if you're still maintaining with referrals, like maintaining where you're at some point, it's going to go back. You don't want that. You always want to constantly be moving up, because it takes time to create those results. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
No, that really good point. Yeah, really good point. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you've got different channels that can help thrive and take it to the next level. All right.
Yeah, check out that ebook too. I think it has some really good information for you that can help you with like kind of, number one, figure out exactly what your sales cycle is for you, as well as like what types of offers and educational pieces you can have too. So I think that'd be really helpful. So feel free to download that.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Marketing Mastermind. If you took away any little golden nuggets or took down a mental note of any pieces that you loved from this episode, it would mean so much to me if you wouldn't mind sharing this with a friend, sharing it on your social media, or if you feel so inclined, rate and review this podcast. That is the best way to show your love and support and to get the podcast out there to more listeners. So I greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, and I will see you on the next episode.